The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Alright guys, this is Darren with Bobcat Training. Today we're going to be going over Mill-Turn Basic. This is just going to be a basic exercise on Mill-Turn. We're not going to do any part transfers or anything, but we're just going to get familiar with the Mill-Turn package here. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, again, I'm Darren with Bobcat Training. Let's get some administrative stuff out of the way here. So let's go with, if you got any questions on support or how to get the support and some other training questions and stuff, we have our Bobcat Support .com here. This is a new website on there. You can get through there by going to the BobCAD.com website, clicking on support at the top, and it'll take you to the support page, which is this. In here, you can get to technical support, posting, and training resources. So in the tech support area, we'll just go to that page. Make sure you go ahead and sign up for this. We are doing some changes in there, so there are a little bit of hiccups. So if you do have an account with us or in the support portal here, we'll call it, and there, you're not getting what you should have on your license and everything, or package deal, give us a call, because there are a couple of hiccups that we are working through. In fact, I just went through it yesterday, so I'm just letting you guys know that there are some hiccups. So get a hold of our tech guys; they'll get you fixed up there. Basically, I don't have an account or customer ID set up here, but when you come into this front page, you're basically going to see all your information here as far as invoices, what licenses you have, what computers are on. So everything is going to be located in here. You can also, you're getting started, software updates. Make sure you're updated to the latest software. Honestly, we don't send out any emails or anything about updates or anything. You just need to check here periodically. Here's all the standalones right here if you need to utilize those there. Also, we got SolidWorks and Rhino. And if you have a Machinist Toolbox, you can go ahead and download that too on there. So that's what tech support, and also you can submit tickets from there also if you need to on there. So, you got request a ticket, software updates, knowledge base. That's a good one. We are updating that periodically, actually every day. We're getting one or two more knowledge base articles in there for you. Next, we have our post processors. Post processors are where you can download posts. Now, if you're running just lathe, mill 2 or 3 axis, sometimes even 4, depending on your machine, we will have it on our website here. This is Mill-Turn. You're going to have to fill out the mill request. Download a post-processor request here. Post-processor request, or creation they call it. There's a little YouTube on how to do it and everything. Now, we got 2 options here. What you're going to want to utilize is the PDF one here. Go ahead and read all the information, because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to have to go through each one of these in here. Which mill turn do you have? You're going to have to download it. What I would do is just download it and then write it all out by hand if you want to. You can either scan it back in, or you can actually come back onto the site here, and I'll just take you to the page. So here's all the information that we're going to need on here. Like I said, you can download all this stuff if you want in there, but and then you can come back in and type it all out. There's an actual request form right here that's going to have every information on there. The one I just showed you had the information on there for how to find center rotation, that kind of stuff in there. So yeah, make sure you download it, print it out, write it all out. You can come back in here, and like I said, you can fill all the boxes by typing them out, and it makes it a little easier. We're also going to need, here's all your supported mill and lathe standard CAN cycles, everything in here. we're gonna need some sample programs from you. List of G&M codes, any other information that we're going to need. Also, if you have any models for your machine, go ahead and send those in also. Package that all together, get it over to our posting guys so we can get a post created for you on that. So in our training department here, we got our getting started videos, our virtual training events, which is what you guys are in right now. You got your training professors, and you got recorded events, previous live events there. The one thing it does not show, and I'll take you to our main web page here, is let's go to BobCAD-CAM, is on our training, and we haven't got everything switched over, obviously, for training yet. We are traveling, so if you guys are wanting us to come out to your place of business to train you, we'll be glad to do that. Just give our training department a call. They'll give you a quote, how much it's going to cost and everything and stuff. We also are doing in-houses where you guys come down to Florida. We'll train you. The good thing about between on-site and in-house is that it's specific for you. It's for you only, so, we're going to work on your kind of stuff on there. Obviously, it'd be better if it was at your doing an on-site because we're in your environment and, we can kind of test things out if we need to. On there. We also are doing seminars, local, seminars, 3D seminars. And those are just pretty basics, going over CAD drawing in 2 and 3 axis, or 2D, 3D, and also mill 2 and 3 axis up to Pro. Now, with that said, there are, I will answer, because I do all the seminars also, so I will, answer any questions if you want me to go over lathe. We have a lot of time, especially on Friday. We go over Bob Art. If anybody has lathe and they want to go over it, I'll go over some lathe events there. Also, we'll do other options in there also. So those are just, 3 different options. And we also are doing online training too still. So if you guys do have any online training on your account, give us a call. We're glad to set you up with some training there. The next thing we have here, I'm going to move that over, is our forum here. So if you go to forum.bobcat.com, it's where you can come in and answer questions. You can ask questions. Pretty much tech and post and training departments are all on the forum here. So we're, checking in on it, and we're answering questions. We're asking questions also. Guys, within the U.S. or around the world are also in there also on there. So they're all asking questions. And it's a great resource also. So, just besides our new support site here page, our training, and the forum, there's some great resources. And we also have YouTube and our Bobcat After Dark page on Facebook and Instagram there also. So those are great resources to go into and stuff in there. So again, I'm going to be working in version 34. If you're running 31 to 34, you'll be fine. I'm not going to go through the new features within any of those versions there. If you're running, 30 or below, you guys are going to have a little difference in the drawing aspect, but as far as setting up for the CAM side, everything's going to be about the same also on there. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, 34 here. So I'm just going to take you quickly through all the tabs. I'm not going to, dwell on any one of them. We do have specific live events for those for like 2D and 3D drawing. I'm assuming that you guys know everything, so I'm just going to go glass over them real quick and everything, go through some of the tabs down on the screen here, and then we'll just jump right into it and stuff on here. So we got our file tab. This allows you to open a new document, open up existing documents, save as. You can merge files into one file or another. We can also close out the program. You can also print. We got our recent files right here. Now, if it is stored locally on your desktop, you should see or somewhere on your computer, basically, you should be able to see a picture of it. If it's like on a flash drive or something, you'll see the name, but you won't see the picture of it and stuff. User profile, this is where you can change the layout, basically, of your screen here. We also have our help file where our help topics are. This is a good resource here to another way to get information on there is by using this. You got your cold CAD section right here, your CAM section, Bob Art if you want to utilize that. So you got those options there also. Also, you got your getting started videos, your tip of the day, activate and transfer license, or in other words, the old way we used to call it, or still call it in some ways, deauthorize on there. So transfer allows you to transfer the license if you're moving from one computer to another, or if you're taking the software home, basically, you can transfer a license. And then when you get to your other computer or new computer, whichever it may be, you just input the original license ID and password. But make sure when you're doing all that to, when you transfer the license, you get everything transferred, close the software down on this computer. Once you get to your new computer or the other computer, load up BobCAD, start BobCAD up. Don't have it up and running already because it'll still think you're actually still working on the other one. But anyway, start it up. Activate the license using the same license ID and password, you should be good to go. If you're running into any of those issues, either it wasn't deauthorized properly, and there's really not a way to improperly do it, basically, or you might have the software up and running still on there, so that might be a problem. So you got your license status, you got your information over here, what version you're running, what build you're on, license agreement, system info, that kind of stuff. Then we got our settings here. This allows you to set up your directory, backup files, autosave if you want to use that, keyboard and mouse functions, 3D mouse if you're utilizing that, data collection. You can turn this off if you want. It is on by default when you guys install the software. It actually probably prompted you something. I don't know if anybody's read it or anything. It allows us to collect data information that you're using within the software. We have no clue who you are, where you're at in the world. We just collect information of clicks that you do in the software. That's it. And the reason why we're doing that is our development team reconsidering, some functions in the software or not. If somebody's using this a lot or a bunch of people are using this function a lot more, they might not get rid of it, where in other cases they may. On there, so you can get out of it if you want. It's up to you. We also got our default documents and current documents here. They're both the same. The good thing is if you do one or the other, down here you're going to have apply to documents or apply to documents there, or current documents as it is. In here you can change your units, your display on there if you want. You can also set up your CAD tolerances, snap increments, your text if you want to set, do any texting options in there. Your dimensions, you can set those up. Now this is all stuff you don't have to set up, at the, start of the program. You can just kind of get used to it first and then come in later on and say, hey, I want my dimensions all to be, in Helva for whatever reason. And the height of that quarter or half an inch instead of, 0.1969 or something, whatever it is on there. How many decimal places? So this may be stuff that you just may want to add in, so you don't have to do it manually every time you go into dimensions, that kind of stuff. Also, we got our arrow style here, what kind of arrow styles you want to use for left and right, length and width, in and out, positioning, leaders, that type of options in there. And then we got our CAM tolerances, simulation tolerances, and our default machining order, how you want your machining order. So mostly you're going to be looking at is mill job, turning job, and mostly mill turn job if you got that, and even wire DM if you have that on your license. So anything you do along this tree right here, make sure you hit apply to default or apply to documents. Then you don't have to go in and manually do it all over again and try to remember and hopscotch back and forth. Then you just have to apply and then OK at the end. Then we got our home tab. This has all our editing, selection, quick selection, modification, selection mask, turning mode. Remember, this turning mode is only for the CAD side. It's not for the CAM side. We already figured that out in the background for the CAM side. So if you're used to working in standard drawing here, go ahead and just keep using it. You don't have to. You can go into turning mode if you want to. All it's going to do is change this right down here, that coordinates to a lathe type setup in there. And then also when we go into any of these functions for 2, 3, utilities, evaluate, all that, it's all going to be set up in a lathe option in there. So that's kind of an option if you want to utilize that. We also do copy and paste and all that stuff. We do have keyboard selections on there. So, you know, if you know Microsoft shortcut keys, we do follow those. So Control X for cut, Control C for copy, Control V for paste, that kind of stuff. Also, I didn't show you in here is under settings is customizing shortcuts here. You can customize shortcuts here. Like I said, we do follow the Microsoft rules here if you need to. I did make my own for this, Control G. If I come down here, I can come down and let's say clear all. I can go, let's say, Control Y, or, yeah, Y. And if it's assigned, it will tell you right there, redo on there, so that may not be a good one. I can do, I don't know, Control Q, unassigned. So if I wanted to use clear all, you know, I know it's a clear, Control Shift A function in there, but if I wanted to shortcut key it, I can do Control Q or whatever you want in there. So you can shortcut it if you want. Next tab over is all our 2D functions in here. So we got our entity, shapes, patterns, corners, booleans, text, and utilities section. So, you know, with the entities, you got points on there. Now, if you click on, I'm going to look at points as an example here. If I click on points, then I come down here and I got these different creation options in here. And if I highlight over them, they will tell me exactly what they are. If I go through the drop-down menu, it's going to give me a description of what it is on there. So depending on how you want to do this and how, you know, familiar you are with the software, you can go either route. It doesn't matter on there. Shape library here, just an example. We got different shapes in there that you can choose from. You can also modify them, whatever you want to do. Hole patterns, corner fillets, that kind of stuff. Also, we got our 3D creation here. This is where you can come in and create any 3Ds, either primitives using cubes, cylinders, spheres, cone, and torus, or you can do an extrusion from a wireframe of some sort. You can Boolean, either subtract, add, or intersect on there. You got your different surfacing options in here. These are your main ones, and then you got advanced surfacings here. We'll get into a little bit, a lot of this stuff too in 3D creation here. In fact, most of the models that we're going to be bringing in, I've already got pre-made already. In fact, everybody's got them in their software on there, so if you want a practice item, you can use those if you want on there. But I'm also going to create one part here just from 2D and then make a 3D model out of it. We also got our cornering options in here, our stitching and unstitching. If you need to unstitch different surfaces, you can do that. And then you got all your other modifications, either extend, split, shell, untrim, break, or intersect there if you need to. Then we got our utilities tab where we got our move, trim and extend, break, adjust, reorganize, reverse, and properties here. So with the move, obviously you got translate, rotate, mirror, scaling, and align. We also got our extend and trim options, or trim and extend. With quick trim, trim one or two entities, trim modal, trim string, or screen there if you need to utilize those. You got different break options in here for break many, break on entity. You can break screen, divide, or break on angles if you need to. Same thing with adjust here. You got different options for adjustments in here, and you're reorganized in here also. You tend to utilize either explode or clean up and optimize my two main ones there. I very rarely start using these two anymore, just because with the cleanup and optimize here, not only does it do that, but it's also you can erase doubles and make arcs tangential, so it kind of does everything all at once. Hence probably the recycling little icon there. Then we got our reverse contours if you need to utilize those. Then we got our different evaluate options in here. We got our different dimensions here. These work on just certain planes, either top, side, or whatever surface that you're on by using the UCS in here. Same thing with the notes and annotation here. You can create notes in the system here, where if you're going to print it out, you can definitely use that. You also got the modifying dimensions. Modifying dimensions, you can move a line or align vertically or horizontally, whichever one you're using. And you got measure 1 and measure 2. Those are my two primary ones I use because it doesn't matter what view I'm looking at. I can rotate it around and get measurements if I need to off of it. The CAM section, we're going to kind of wait here for a few minutes. So I'm just going to go ahead and not worry about that one yet. We'll get to that one here shortly. So the first thing I'm going to do, again, we're going to import part files in here, and they're already Bobcat files. We can open up files. If I go File, Open here, if I hit the drop down here, it defaults to a Bobcat file. But if you want to open up something different in there, you know, like a CAD, some sort of CAD file, or, you know, IGES, step file, 3DM, SAT file, X_T or B if you need to utilize that, SolidWorks part files, step files, STLs. We do open up any of those right there on there. So, but I'm going to go ahead and draw a part file here. It's actually more of a lathe part, but it kind of gives you an idea of just kind of the basics of the drawing here real quick. We're going to make a 3D model out of it also. So I got a print over on my other screen here. And before we get into that, let me take you through some of the tabs in here. So we got our data entry. This is where all our data information is going to come from in here. Either utilizing something within the tabs up here or in the CAM section. You're going to hear me say, go to your data entry, go to your data entry. That's where all your information is going to be inputted in. CAD tree, this is where a history of everything that you've done in that CAD tree is going to show up. You know, if it's a circle or a shape library or some sort of solid, you're going to see it showing up in there. If you have Bob Art, you can have this Bob Art tab also up if you want. That's where you can go, and we got a different video for that also, or live event. And then our CAM tree, this is where we're going to start our new jobs from. We can right click new job from there, or we can go, in this case, we're going to go CAM new job when we're ready to do that. And you also got options up here also, starting a new machining job, templates if you want to utilize those. Over on my right side, we have our layers. So we got, this is where you're going to set up layers from. If I usually just right click, add a new layer, and I can rename it from there if I need to. Posting, this is where all our G code's going to show up at. Our UCS, if you need to change the user coordinate system. Right now, we're just going to be looking at the top view, but if you wanted to, you can look at it a side view or a front view, whichever one you want. We'll just look at a top view here. We got a selection. This is where you can set up different selections in here if you need to. And then we got our measure entity. That's where the evaluate under measure 1 and measure 2 show up on there. So if any one of these that you close out and they don't show up again, if you come over up here on your ribbon in a clear area, it doesn't matter what, you know, tabs open in here. I always go to the clear opening area. If you right click, you can always, you know, show them, or you don't have to show them if you don't want to in there. So you got different options in there. And if they, you know, if something's not there on there, you can always, you know, get rid of it if you need to. I just got rid of that selection in there, or you can show it if you want on there. So just kind of that. And then also down here we have our measurement items in here. So if we want to draw in millimeters, or in this case we're going to change it to centimeters because it's a centimeter drawing, we can always change it back after we're done and everything. We got our different line styles, color of what you want to use for drawing in here. Default's always the blue. I don't think I've ever changed that. We got our magnet here if you want to use that. That's our snap increments on there. So if you're like drawing a straight line or something, it's going to snap. On this case, it's going to be, you know, it's in centimeters now, 0.1588. So it'll snap every 1588 along the way. Same thing with circles. Then we got, and then I just disabled that. You can enable and disable flyouts. We'll get into those later. And then we got our construction tracking. This allows you to draw like a straight line in horizontal and vertical or whatever. And it'll give you a bunch of different dash lines that you can choose from in there. That's a really nice option. And then we got our active UCS. What's our view our active UCS on options in there. So with that, I've already set it up to a centimeters here. So I'm going to kind of zoom out and I'm going to do it all in here. So when I was taught mill turn, I've always put in a lathe portion of it. There are other ways to do it. I'm just going to do it the way I was taught on there, and a lot of guys that I go in training with, that the way they've been taught too. So let's go ahead and I'm going to start off with a create 2D and a rectangle here. Now I'm just going to do the overall size on this here. So I'm going to go, length is going to be 37.5. And my height is going to be 22.5. Now I'm going to come down here to my options here, and I'm just going to put it right in the center there. And I'm going to say OK and cancel and just call that done. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to line, and I'm just going to put a line right at the center here because I'm going to need that later. Alright, so now it's a lot of moving over, halfway, doing line parallels basically. If I wanted to, I could come into utilities, which I'm going to do right now just because it's going to be easier here, and I'm going to go quick trim. I'm just going to trim this halfway because I don't need this bottom half anymore. I could have done it a different way, but we'll just keep it that way for right now. So I'm going to go back into Create 2D. I'm going to hit the drop down, and I'm going to go line parallel because that's going to be my basic one there. So first one is going to be 6.25. And I'm going to take this vertical line and move it over. Now I want to do the same thing on this back end here, right there. And everything's going to be based, and that's the only time I need to work in the back there. Everything's going to be based off this front part right now, so it's just a matter of 9.38. Choose that line and move it over, and just left click. Notice I'm not going all the way over. I'm just going on this side of the line or that side of the line, and I'm just left clicking. Next one's going to be 1081, 10.81. There we go. 2544. And then 2813. There we go. And let's see, I need to go, now I'm going to go 12.5 because that's my diameter, divided by 2, do simple math in here, and I'm just going to take this horizontal line and bring it up here. Now I need to come down 1.88. I'm going to take this line here and come down right down here. And then that should be done. Yep. Now it's just a matter, now I just need to draw a couple of lines in here. So I'm going to go from here, and I'm going to take this vertical line and come from here. Now I'm going to hover over this line and hopefully get a intersection. There we go. So you just kind of hover over it, and I messed that up, so I'm going to undo you. And it's trying to pick to this closest snap point here. There we go. There we go. So that's it for that. So now it's just a matter of cleaning it up, making, and then I got to do some radiuses at the end, and then we'll go ahead and make it into a solid. So the easiest thing to do is go under Utilities, Quick Trim, and just kind of trim it all the way here. So that should be good there. Let's get rid of you. Now I could go into break many, and it would probably be easier to do that, but I'm not too worried about this. So I just need to go in the back here and there we go. So now it's just a matter of going to Create 2D, going to Fillet here, and I need to make 2.5. And now I'm going to go pick this line and this line, and you can see it made my arc. I'm going to go to single corner click here, and I'm going to come to this intersection. You see what happened there? Doesn't matter what side I'm on. As long as I'm closest to that intersection, it made my radius right there. So now I need to make another one at 0.5. And I'm just going to do the single click here. Or if I really want to, I can do a chain. And I'm not going to do a chain on that one. I'll do a single click just because if I do the chain, it's going to try to do a chain up here on there, which I don't need. I just need it down here. And that's pretty much it with that on there. So now what I can do is come over here to layers. I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to call this solid. And make sure my green check mark's in there. And I'm going to come over here to create 3D. And I'm going to use what's called Revolve here. Now before I even do that, I'm going to come back out of there. I'm going to go to Utilities. And I'm going to do a cleanup and optimize in here. So anytime I do any drawings or anything, I try to remember it. You can see I almost missed it. So lines, arcs, all look pretty good. No complaints there. And again, it's a no harm, no foul function in there. So you can come up here, hit the green check mark on the upper right. Still get the same amount in there. I've had it sometimes where, you do something like that and it'll, I've done it 3 or 4 times and I'm getting different results every time. On there. So I just do it a couple of times, and then now I'll go into Revolve here, and what I'm going to do with the Revolve, my data entry, I'm going to come here, I'm going to change this to 360. With caps on there, it should be fine because I'm going to put caps on there anyways. I'm going to go into an X direction on this. This is good. And everything else I'm going to leave alone. So now it's going to be 2 clicks in here. So I'm going to go up from this vertical line here. If I click down here, the arrow is going to start up here and point down this way and assume I'm going to go this direction. I want to go up and around this way. So I'm going to take this line. It could be an arc too, whatever it is. I'm going to go past the halfway mark and left click. So there goes my arrow. So it knows what direction I'm going to go now. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Go past the halfway mark, hold my shift key down, and left click. And there goes my solid right there. And you can see I got it already capped off. I'm going to say OK and cancel. And that's it right there. So now I can come down here at the bottom, change it to inches, and we're good to go. And I can do a save as on here. And let's see, I'm going to call this They'll turn 3. And hit save, and that's pretty much it. Any questions or anything so far? All right. So, like I said, we're gonna, that's just a quick introduction into the drawing section of it. Making creating a simple 2D function and going into creating a 3D function in here. So, from there, we got. Let's go ahead and go to CAM here. So with the CAM, we got all these tabs. Now I'm going to go through each one of them here because they are going to be very important. A lot of it is in here. So the first thing we're going to look at is the post encryption. Post encryption allows you to encrypt your post processor if you need to. Our posting guys will do this for you if you got certain things that they don't want you to mess around with in the post processor or see. They'll encrypt your post. If you got some scripting done, they'll go ahead and encrypt it. You can also do this yourself on there. There will be a warning on there when you do say encrypt that, make sure you do save a copy out of it, because once you encrypt it, we cannot unencrypt it. So yeah, just be careful of that when you do that. Like I said, our posting guys are mostly the ones I've seen using this on there. Next, we have our external applications here. This, if you have Mach 3, if you bought it third party, you will not have access to this. If you bought it through Bobcat, you should have access to this as a license file that we provide you with that allows you to put in for Mach 3. Again, only if you bought that through us. Predator editor, we phased out. We don't use that anymore, but if you have anything lower than 30 on the same computer as you do, either 31 to 34, you may still have access to the Predator editor. Like I said, we phased it out, so any new customers, you will see the Predator editor in there. You will not have access to it. It's, for lack of a better term, glorified Notepad. But it also allows you to view a simulation and run an RS-232 cabling if you need to. What we've gone to is the NC editor, which I'll go ahead and just open up for you right now. And I don't have any text in there or anything, but we'll open it up again when we do get some G-code in here, just to show you if you need to. There we go. Now, I'm not going to show the pro side. Everybody should have at least a standard in there, so you're just going to have this in here. The good thing is that even with the standard version, color coordination is going to be an option in there. So, all your G codes are going to be one color, or X are going to be one color. Feed rates, those type of things are all going to be different colors on there. Again, if you're running an RS-232, you still have an option to set up for an RS-232 in here. And also a good thing is that with the Predator editor, if you guys use that beforehand, if you saw something that you needed to change in the CAD side of it or CAM side of it, or both, in the G code or something, you would have to close out the Predator in order to get the new G code to populate into your NC editor or Predator editor. You don't have to do that with the NC editor anymore. You just minimize it like I did, and it'll repopulate itself with the new code in there if you need to make any changes. Knowledge base, again, I'm not going to go through that one there. We got material library. Material library, this is where you can set up, what material you're using on there. Now, not going to really matter for maybe mill turn too much, but you can choose, by default, carbon steels are material that we have in there. You can modify it, you can delete it, you can, choose a different one, but depending on the bits that you're using, this is mostly for mill though, not for lathe or anything on there. They're looking at these tool material types, and you see these numbers are all changing and everything. If you want, you can go ahead and change them right here, or if you want to change them individually in mill rough cuts, you can change the SFM chip loads and plunge chip load if you need to on there. So you can definitely change those if you want to. You can also set one as your default. Like I said, the carbon steel is a default one also. Also, we have in our library, we have our thread library here. So in here, we got different thread tapping groups in there, and you'll see, different thread lists in there. Again, you can add or modify any one of those if you need to. You can change the label name, major, minor diameter, pitch, angles, taper, thread. your cutting and rolling tabs there if you need to. You can modify or add any of those if you need to. Just add's going to be the same page, just, you know, you got to fill out all the information. Adapters. This may be critical for you guys with the mill turns in here. If you have adapters, we do have preloaded ones in here for face milling, boring, cross mill, turn, adapters, dualing, or dual mill Z adapters. We also got our side mounts for turning, X and Z, facing, cross milling, boring, four cross mill adapters. We got different ones in here, so just to show you, brings you into this screen. You can load your own in if you have SCL models of them, or you can create your own by setting up the information as needed in there. We'll also, you know, our posting guys will also help out on this also if need be in there. I'm not going to be using any adapters in these examples today. They do take some time to set up and everything, and this is stuff that you kind of want to set up prior to actually running it, because once you get your, you know, you get our post request in, we set up the adapter either being a 12 or 24 station, whatever you guys are using on there. Also, we're going to need to know, you know, what kind of adapters and what position that they're in. We're going to be doing this all on the fly, but I'm going to also show you when we get into the CAM side of it how to set up for a basic, you know, tool crib on there. So this is definitely going to be a really critical thing, is knowing, you know, what kind of adapters you're using. Mill holder. If you want to, you can set those up as CAT 40, 50, or BT40s. Again, you can edit any of them, or you can add your own if you want. Then we got our tool library here. Now, this is an overall one. Once we get into the CAM side of it, or the job setting, it's going to be set up a little bit different. But now you know, of course, you're going to have all the drilling, milling, and lathe. But you're also, you know, when we get in, you won't see in the job section the laser plasma water jet part of it. So, you know, you can come in here, you can add your own tools if you want here, if you need to. You can modify any one of them. And if you hit the tool parameters in here, this is set up as a modification now, so I can come in here, change my tool material if I need to. I can set up my own feeds and speeds, and this will elongate any material you're using if you put it in here. So it doesn't matter if you're using carbon steel and material in the software and you're actually running wood. Done it for years. Again, I just set up my feeds and speeds the way I would run them on my machine. Again, you can do that, you know, manually in the tool library or tool page also. We also got an option in here to import from either M tool library, L tool, XML tool library, or Machining Cloud. Machining Cloud's new to us. We've had that, I believe, since 33. Yes, 33. On there. That I did not show you, but I'm going to show you now. Bear with me here. Machining. Where'd it go? Oh, there we go. So if you guys want to download different tools, you can in here. So with the Machining Cloud, what you can do is, here's all the list of all the manufacturers, or most of them, on here. Now, if there's ones that you use that you don't see, you can go ahead and request a new publisher. I've done that twice now, and, you know, actually I see them adding some more in here every day. Not the ones that I kind of use, but they're probably not as popular. But, you know, for example, Kennametal. I'm going to search the library now. And I'm going to just look for an ID turning tool, just as an example. So I'm going to go to turning here. I'm not picking anything specific. Let's see. Let's go ID OD turning or OD ID turning. Internal machining. Because this is one of the biggest things with our software. We don't really Anything below 33 there, we don't have a way to really set up for a boring bar. So if you can download one, I'm just picking one off the top of my head here. You know, you got different options in here. Let's go this one. So this one's got 7 different types in here, what it's going to look like. You know, this is how it's going to download and stuff. So you can download the models. I'm not going to go into depth on how to do all this. But if you know, you select the one you want, you create an assembly. Once you get into that assembly, I'm just picking one offhand. It's going to ask me to add an insert. I'm going to go ahead and choose an insert right here. So we'll just choose this one. And we're going to go to, let's say, that one. Now let's pick an American one here. That's fine. And we're going to say add to assembly. Once we get that, you can download it right here. No downloads in session, which I'm not too worried about right there. And then you can load, it's going to download a zip file for you. You load that zip file into the software and it will produce a lathe tool for you. So I don't think, no, I don't have one on this one in here. No, I don't. But that's okay. So you do have an option. There is a video, I believe, online on YouTube for that, if you want to take a look at that. So again, you've got the tool library here. DMS defaults. This is where, if you want to, you can come in. When we get into either either lathe or mill, doesn't matter which one. I'm just looking at this for example. Let's go to hole template. Let's go to hole for example. I've come across a lot of guys that don't use center drills. That's totally fine. But they always want to use drill on there. So what you can do is come into this DMS defaults, dynamic machining strategy. You can delete the center drill by just hitting that red X and clicking OK. So every time we go into a drill operation, on there we pick on hole. We're not going to see center drill in the machine strategy page on the wizard there, either lathe or mill. On there, so you can definitely set that up. Cutting conditions, if you need to set up cutting conditions for pecking, center drill pecking, drill pecking operations, reams, chamfers, counterbores, bores, that kind of stuff, you have those options to do so if you need to on there. Again, this is stuff that you don't need to worry about automatically, but you know, eventually once you get more familiar with the software, you'll want to set that up to, you know, a little more conducive to what you're doing and how you're doing stuff. Job templates, if you're using the same templates over and over again, doing the same jobs pretty much over and over, you can utilize this. And then we got our new job. I'm going to come back to current settings because that's going to take a few minutes there. So with new job, this is you're going to have milling, turning, mill turn, and depending on what you got on your license on there, you're going to have either all of them checked or highlighted, or some of them maybe grayed out, maybe like YRDM or something. In here, this is where, and this is just a default one, so you're going to see every machine that we have within the software of yours. Mine's going to be a little bit more because I am one of the trainers here, so I do have machines from different customers and everything in here. So then we have our current settings. Current settings allows you, this is where our posting guys are actually going to go and set up everything for you too. But you also have an option in here to add your own machine or modify any of the machines names. Set number of tools, rapid feed, what your maximum spindle speed is, and what your feed rate is going to be. Machine definitions. Now this one I'm not going to worry about. Let's see. Let's go to, and I'm going to use the one I'm going to be using is the BC 1 turret 1 spindle. That's all I'm going to be using today. Now you'll notice that the tree changed here to submachining now. So we'll get into that here in a second. So machine definitions. If you got a little like three-dimensional looking icon right there, that means there's a solid model attached to it. Same thing with the Z-axis here. There's a SCL model attached to it. This is how your machine is basically going to be set up. Now, it may be a little different for yours. Again, I'm just looking at the BC ones right now. These are the Bobcat default ones on here. So There may be some differences in there. Our posting guys go over, go through all this. That's why all that paperwork that I showed you in the posting section for creating a post processor is necessary, because this is what they're going to be putting in there for the kinematics of your machine on there. And if you do have a sub machine in there, do you have an upper turret, main spindle, what kind of things do you have in there? Do you have a sub machine in there? That kind of stuff. On there, you can set up all your linear, first, third, that kind of stuff in there. Posting, how's your posting locations at in your NC file path? What kind of NC file extension are you using? A lot of times, maybe it's different for Milturn, because they're going to want to know what kind of what do you call it? File extension that you're using. So if it's not a .nc, it's definitely, you can choose, something else if you need to on there. So bear with me here. Good. Just getting rid of a few things here so we don't get disturbed there. So if you're not using a .nc, it can be a .tap file, just a .gcd, whatever it may be. Program number. Now, again, this you don't have to set this up here if you don't need to. If it's the same number that you're using all the time, you can just utilize that. And also, it depends on how your post is set up too. Also, we have here our absolute and incremental. This is set from version 24. Don't worry about this. It's all going to be set up in your post processor. If you do require incremental, it is by default absolute. Let our posting guys know, because this is a Milturn post. Don't let our tech guys know, because they're going to go right to the posting guys anyways with this. Start sequence numbers. If you guys have utilized sequence numbers in your posting, how's that going to be set up? Is it 1 for 1 like N01, N02, or is it 2 by 2, N02, N04, N06, that kind of stuff? Do you require sub-programming? Do you require machine handling or use transform plane? Those kind of options. And do you have the option in your post to output any additional comments on there? So that's kind of up to you guys on that. Then we got our multi-access posting here. Now, normally, I'm just going to tell this like I tell everybody else, don't touch this page. Our posting guys and machine setup guys will set this up for you when needed on there. If there's anything that needs to be fixed or something, we're going to actually... we'll actually do it on our end. May change some things around, check some things out. But other than that, you guys shouldn't have to touch this page at all on there. We may do some testing, but other than that, should be good. Any questions or anything? All right, so let's go ahead and throw in a stock wizard. So we'll just use this model here just as an example. So come up here to CAM, and I'm going to hit New Job. Whoops. Gotcha. Let me hit Cancel here. CAM, New Job. I'm going to choose Wire EDM, or not Wire EDM, excuse me, Milturn. BC 1 spindle is what I'm actually going to be using, so I'm going to hit the drop down. Now, if you got multiple machines, Milturn machines, make sure you put the one that you use the most, or your favorite, however you want to put it, as your main one on there. Again, when you do get the software and you do get your Milturn post on there, our posting guys will set up a executable file that they'll send you that will install this into the software. You'll just make sure it's closed down at the time of installation, and then it will save it as your default one anyways for you. So in this case, I'm just going to have to change mine every time. That's just what we're going to be doing for this one today. We're going to go to BC 1 turret 1 spindle, and we're going to hit Stock Wizard. Now again, if you want to use a workpiece, you can. You can select this if you want, or if you want to, when we get into, and what it does is it adds a workpiece, so you don't have to have your stock showing or your solid model showing on the screen when you go into simulation. It'll use the solid model as our workpiece. Now, if you do have your solid model on the screen at the time of going into simulation, it'll act as your workpiece for you. So you can do one or the other, it doesn't matter on here. I'm going to go ahead and select it this time, just because I know when we do this, it's only going to be lathe parts that we do on this one. So we're just going to show the 2D geometry, and I'll totally forget about bringing in the workpiece if I want to. And you can use it as a cross-reference also in here. So from here, we'll go ahead and hit the arrows pointing to the right. And this brings up our stock definition. So I'm going to kind of rotate this around. So by default, we always look at a rectangle here. We want to use cylinder, but you also have options in here for wireframe, solid model. If you got a solid model that you're using, or an STL that you saved out, you can definitely use that, or you can revolve it if you want. So today we're going to be using cylinder here. So I'm going to choose X direction because that's the direction that my CAD's going right now. And I'm going to come back up here and say calculate from stock. And then you can choose bounding box or cylinder, whichever one you want to utilize there. So everything looks pretty good here. If I want to, I can add, I can go diameter. I can make this an even 9 in there, which will ultimately add a little bit of stock right at the top for us and on the bottom. I can make the height, an even 15 if I wanted to on that, or I can just go ahead and, let's see, start face, end face. So on the end face, I can add an extra, let's say, 6 inches onto my stock. The start face, if I wanted to, I could add, and this is for a facing operation, remember. I can go 0.1. So when I get into a facing operation, I got 2 options in the feature constraints, either geometry or custom. A lot of times I'll do custom, but if you got a 0.1 sticking out or off the face that you want to utilize, go ahead and just put it in there and use from geometry from there. So everything's good from there. We got everything set up the way we need to. So we're going to go ahead and hit the next button. Now this sets up our origin here. So orientation. Right now we're looking at a mill orientation. What we need to do is turn this X up to the Y. The Y is going to move into the X position, and then we'll move the Y up to the Z position here. So it has a lathe looking setup here. So in order to do something like that, I'm going to keep it in the center here. I'm going to come down to X direction here. I'm going to click in that box, and I'm going to choose this snap point right here. So there we go. So it turned my X and Y. Now my Y, I'm going to choose that box here, and I'm going to choose that snap point up at the top. Now you'll notice in here that for some reason my X and Y changed. So I'm going to come here. I don't know why that changed. There we go. So I just hit the arrows here, and I couldn't remember why I did that. So let's hit restock coordinates here just for the fun of it. Let's come back up here to X, and we'll choose this snap point again. And then Y. And I'm not sure why it shouldn't be turning that way. It should have actually flipped over. So I'm just going to come back up here to X and go reverse direction. So now I'm set up for a lathe coordinates here. So if you got it set up this way, you'll end up having to do it, that setup way if you need to. And I think I know why, is because I actually added on extra stock on here, so it's kind of acting a little funky on there for some reason. But that's okay. We're good. Down here, when you scroll down, you got different offsets you can use. Work offset 1 being G54, G55, 56. This is a universal or global one on there. So when we get into the posting page, you're going to have an option in there for work offset. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to use them on there, but if you're using it for milling for whatever reason, you can set it up to work offset 1, and then, or 2, and then everything's going to be 2 in that whole this machining job. But we're not going to worry about that. What we're going to worry about is our offsets here. So let's go into clearances. This is auto. So we're looking at the face, diameter, and internal in here. These are all our, and this again set up for the lathe, basically, on there. So if you look at the picture, it'll kind of show you. You know, we got 1 inch off the face, 1 inch off the diameter, and 50 thousandths off the internal diameter in there. So if that's good for you, you can leave it as is. If what we need to do is we actually need to set this up for, in the way our machine is set up for turning and milling for the mill turn, is actually our chuck is right here on XYZ0. So we kind of got to move this out, let's say Z right here. And we're not worried about the spindle and park position because we're not working with secondary spindle or doing any part transfers. So I don't even remember how wide this part is. If I go back 1 page here, I got 9 plus 6, that's 15 it looks like. So let's go 16 here. We'll just add an extra on there. So it just moves out 16 inches. So now our machine actually, this moves out, 16 inches off our machine. So when we go into the simulation, you'll see. So from there, I'm just going to go ahead and OK that. And that's pretty much it with that, the stock wizard part of it. Now, you'll come up here and you'll notice we get a new tab that shows up called Mill Turn here. This is where you can set up additional functions, either add another setup if you need to for whatever reason, add an indexing, toolpath pattern, and if you use toolpath pattern, it's pretty much going to be in a rotate option in there. We also can do a wrapping group if you need to, and we also can add groups so that we can add folders into these groups. If you make a change in here, as far as like the X and Y setup or something like that, you can either update all geometry and then compute all toolpaths, and it'll do everything universally or globally in there on that for us. So you don't have to go through each feature and just update all the geometry and compute it. Next, we have our NC code here. This allows you to set up a different machining order if you want to on there. You're going to see a default one in there when we get done, but again, we can go back in and modify that if we need to. Generate our toolpath statistics, I guess I hit. This will show you your total time. It'll show you some rapid and feed moves in here, give you some extents and tool data, and then whatever features you got set up right here, they'll be all listed right here, and then you can click through each one of them and find out how long things are going to be taken. Also, we got a generate sheet setup in here. I'm just going to use the full sheet setup in here, and it's going to just come up with some arbitrary kind of thing in here, a water jet. For example, so you're going to have your file name, post-processor, machine, date and time it was done, program data information, and you see it takes a picture of your CAD screen here. And then you got stock information if you need to utilize those. Bookkeeping on there, so it knows how much time, how much to charge a person when he's done machining. So there's a couple different options in there. Also, you got your posting and your post and save as. You're going to see me click on the icon up here. This will generate code right here for posting. All your G code is going to show up right here. And again, you can right click on there and either go into NC Editor or you can save it out if you need to. You got your simulation. This is going to get you in a simulation. This is going to get you out of simulation. We also got machining features here. So you got your load and save features, copy and paste. So basically what it is, if copy and paste, you can copy and paste features within the program or different programs that you got tabs all set up for on the Bobcat here. Load features, if it's something that you're using all the time, you can save and load if you need to. Then you got your different machining functions here. So you got all your hole creations, your lathe holes, all your turning options here, all your wireframe machining, and then your solid surfacing if you have that available on your license on there. Next over is our job settings. So you can set up a different machine if you don't want to use a BC2X mill, or excuse me, BC1 turret, one spindle. You can choose, different machine. And when you change the machine, the post will also change also. You can also change the material if you want. Like I said, by default, it is carbon steel that we set up all by default, but you can go to, let's say, aluminum here, and 61, 60. Oh, I guess I might have moved too quickly on there, but whatever. 6110, you can set that up and use that as your material if you want. Now, if you hit the arrow just to the left of stock here, you'll see that went from carbon steel to wrought iron now on there. Workpiece, we already got it selected. You can see right there, solid surface, and it turned red right there. If you need to select it again, you can definitely do that from there. Tools, you got your tool library. You can see how this one is broken down now as soon as it appears. There we go. So you got all your drilling options in here, including your taps. You got your milling tools. You also have generic. If you have probing on your license, you'll have availability of that. And then all your lathe tool options also. You also have tool holders if you want to go ahead and modify any of the tool holders. Adapters, you can modify or add any adapters. Now remember, everything that we're doing in here is for job level. It will not correspond to moving on to another job also. You can do verified tool assignments if you want. This allows you'll have all your tools set up right here. And if the only thing that really allows you to do is change the tool numbers in there. And you also have our machining cloud. So if you want to import a tool from the machining cloud, you have that option to do so from this screen here. Let me come back up here to tool crib. Now, I'm not setting up a tool crib. We're just going to do it right on the fly here. Most likely, hopefully, all you guys will have all your tools already set up on a tool turret and everything, and maybe have your adapters also set up if you're utilizing them, because you're going to see them all in here. We can come in here and add an adapter if you want, and I'm just picking one off the screen here. You can see where it lies if you need to move it over, let's say in Z. Let's go 1 inch. Whoops. You can go 2 inches in there, kind of center it if you want. That's if you want to utilize this. And you can also now add a tool in here. So you can come in here and go, let's say lathe, boring. Let's pick this tool. I'm just picking one offhand. And you can see, how it's set up and everything. So let's go -6 inches. On there, you can scroll in and out, hold your left mouse, click down, and it'll let you rotate. If you hold your control key down and left mouse, it allows you to pan right, left, up, and down. There goes the tool setup. If you need to utilize that, you got different orientations that you can choose from. In there. Is it a front facing? Is it a side facing? Whichever direction you want. And milling tools are going to be the same way also, if you need to utilize those. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete those. Okay, so I deleted everything. Good. So we can okay that. Like I said, we're going to do the tool crib on our own. I'm not going to use any adapters or anything today on here. So basically what's going to happen is that tool crib, if you guys set up a tool crib and that's the same things you're using over and over again, the tool crib is good to have. Once you get through a stock wizard, before you even start one toolpath on here, you're going to write either load your tool crib, because you can either save it out or load it in here. Once you do that, or you can come down here to milling tools, right click and go to tool crib. Same thing, load or save. You're going to load that in before you put one toolpath in there. Once you put one toolpath in there, you're kind of messed up now. You're not going to be able to utilize the tool crib anymore. It's going to pick from the system tools now on there. So just be careful. Just remember, every time you're in a middle turn, if you got a turn already set up, go ahead and just load it in. If you hadn't saved it already, go ahead and save it out. Next, we have our stock here. So we can change the color of our stock if we want. You know, I can go to, let's say, this pinkish color for whatever reason. I can also change the transparency of it. The lower I go, the darker it becomes and harder it is to see either my solid or 2D geometry. The higher I go, the more transparent it's be, and I can set it as a default also on there. It's there, but it's not there. I don't have to worry about it. I really don't need to really see the stock if I don't need to on there. So I can come in here and I'm just going to come right about center here, save as default. There it is. What I usually do is blank unblank right there, and if I click on stock right here, it kind of appears. If I choose something else other than stock, it'll go away. So I can blank it out if I want to, and I usually do. I just blank it out right there. Current settings, again, this is a job level one in here, so you got your machine parameters. Is a clamp direction. I'm not going to go through all this setup or everything because it's all new. Posting setup, if you need to utilize that. Automatic comments there. Your machine or multi-axis posting is right here. And we also got comments. So if your post is set up to output raw text or comments, you can set up a number of 15 different comments in here. Either instructions, lunch, dinner menus, whatever you want. You can set that up in there if you need to. So you can definitely do that in there. And it'll show up as raw text in your G code. Any questions or anything so far? All right, so we're going to just go into a lathe portion here. So I'm going to go into layers here, and I'm going to put my check mark in CAD layer, and I'm going to left click on the eyeball. Just within the BobCAD standalone, we just need 2D geometry. So from here, I'm going to right click on machine setup 1, and I got different options in here, either mill or turning. We're just going to mostly look at turning right now. So we're going to go turn, and we're going to go to lathe face end here. I'm going to go ahead and select geometry, and I'm just going to window select over that line. There goes my line that I want to cut. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Brings me back into the geometry selection window. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. I got my feature page here with a region, either region 1 or region 2, depending on what direction I want to go in. I can either choose from stock. That's that stock I added on in the front face in the stock wizard. Or if I don't know either one of those on there, I can go ahead and use custom and set my distance in there if I need to. We'll go from stock here. I have an option here for extension, so I can either extend off the part in the OD or I can come down past the center line in here. So I'm going to go 50 thousandths past center on there, just so we don't leave a tit in there. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And in this example, I'm just going to use end face rough and finish in here. So we're going to use the roughing and then the finishing pass. It's going to be the same tool, but we're just going to go through rough and finish here. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And I get into my posting page here. So I want to do a separate or can cycle, depending on what your post and machine and what you are set up for on there. We'll just use separate moves. It's just going to be a longer G code. From there, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Now I get into my tool setup here. So again, I'm going to go into the tool crib because I got to do that every time. Now it's assuming here's my two tools that I want to use. I'm just going to drag this one up to station 1 here. And let's see, I'm going to go ahead and change the tool. The tool you're currently using, do you want to change the tool for all operations that uses it? You say yes or no, whichever one you want to use. I'm going to come in here and let's say use the 364, so I'm going to say okay. There it changed, and then I'm just going to come out here and I'm going to say -6. Again, not setting up anything pretty in here. I'm doing this all on the fly. So I'm going to go ahead and once I got that set up, I'm going to kind of zoom in on this, hold my control key down and left mouse click, make sure it's all set up the way I need to. That looks pretty good. So I just moved it out. I'm not going to worry about moving it off to the center or anything. I'm just going to move it out off the part. Again, you got different orientations that you can choose from. We'll get into more of that when we get into the milling side too. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and say okay. There's my tool. Again, if I need to do any other setup, I can do it right here also. From there, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. I get into what kind of cut do I want. Do I want to do a standard or offset? If I would have done can cycle, I would have lost the ability to do offset and zigzag in here. So that's why I'm going to do separate all the time just so everything's active so you can see it also. And even when we get into the parameters, there are going to be some things that were left out if I would have used can cycle over separate moves also. So I can do standard cut. You can see what the image is doing off to the right there. We could do either a standard or a zigzag. You could do with compensation on or off with collision detection and check your tool holder, or you can use G41, G42 compensation. Once you get that set up, go ahead and hit next. We get into our depth of cut. How much do you want to take off of each pass? So I'm going to go 20 thousandths. I'm not using any another roughing tool, so I'm not worried about the rough allowance. My finish allowance, I'm going to leave 10 thousandths on there. And then my overlaps. How do I want to overlap this? Either previous, no overlap, or custom. I can go either round or sharp on there. And because we don't have any, basically a casting or an STL model, we don't need to worry about trim to stock in here. What that allows you to do, instead of going all the way back to the home position when you're cutting this eliminates cutting air if you have your stock set up the way like this is right here, instead of like a full cylinder. From there, we go ahead and hit next. We get into our rapids. Now, anything in rapids and the lathe side of it, approach and exit, I'm just going to pretty much leave it default on here because every lathe and mill turn person I talk to, they use something totally different in the rapids section. Got different lead in and lead outs if you want, so you can change your lead in and lead out. You can set up different lengths. If you use custom, you got X and Z options in there also. So I'm going to use horizontal, leave defaults in there. So from there, we go ahead and hit next. We get into the advanced feed rate. So you got general override. You're going to see that on every mill and every lathe feature that we do offer. It allows you to convert rapids into feed moves if you need to. And then different options down below is going to give you different information too. So in this case, because we got lead in and lead outs on there, which I didn't set up or anything really, instead of doing like 100% of the feed rate on the lead in and lead out, we could do like 30 on the lead in and like 250 on the lead out. Whatever you want to do, and it'll show up in our code. From there, we hit next. We get into our MDIs. I'm not going to get into too much of the MDIs today. Just like I said, this is just the basic options in here, or basic class. This is mostly if you really want to use this is if you're doing a part transfer. We do have a generic part transfer and cutoff set up in here already, so it kind of gives you an idea of it. We're not going to worry about the MDIs today. So from there, we'll go ahead and hit next. We get into our finish tool. Now again, we're going to have to go into the tool crib. Now it's assuming, because I didn't set up a tool crib or anything, that we're going to use this tool and I just need to put it in the right station. But I'm going to use the same tool here, so I'm just going to left click on it. Everything's set up. I'm going to say OK. And there we go. I'm just using the same tool for our rough and finish. From there, we'll go ahead and hit next. We get into our patterns page here. So again, why I picked separate moves over can cycle is because of the fact that you be able to you wouldn't have options here for alternate here. It'd just be continuous. So continuous is going to start from the home position and come all the way at the end, or whatever direction you're going, or you got it set up for, or alternate. So you can see what the alternate's doing. You can do vertical face, turn diameter. You can include or not include angle walls. Again, system comp, either on or off with collision detection. You can also check tool holder also, and you also can do G41, G42. From there, you go ahead and hit next. We get into our parameters page here. So this is going to be the same setup pretty much in OD turning and ID turning. So I won't be going through it like I am now. So again, you got an allowance, what kind of corner types you want to utilize if you got going over any radiuses or angles, and if you want to use trim to stock or not on there. From there, we hit next. We get into our rapids here. So again, what you want to set up for your approach and exit. And then we'll kind of lead in and lead out. Do you want to utilize? And again, how do you want that set up? And then advanced feed rates and MDIs. And then from there, we'll just go ahead and hit compute. And this will take a minute here. So if there's any questions, go ahead and ask them. If not, we'll just wait for this to compute, and then we'll take a look at some other things in there. And for whatever reason, I don't know why it always takes forever to do a facing for rule. I don't know. I don't know why it's so long sometimes. And it should be almost done here. Yeah, it just takes a minute. Apologize for that. And that's a finished pass. I believe it's on right now. And it's almost halfway done there. Now, the next parts that we'll be doing today, this afternoon, I won't be going through the facing operation. I'm just doing it this one time, and that's it. Because it does take a long time for whatever reason. Maybe it's just the way I set it up on there, which is totally fine. There we go. And it probably is because we got a lot of going on in there. So you can see it's actually going down past the part there. So I'm going to go ahead and blank this out. Shrink it up, and we're going to go ahead and do the OD. Now I'm just going to come right up to here. I'm not going to worry about cutting this back part out or anything. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to turn feature, and we're going to go to late turning here. Select geometry. So I'm going to choose this right here. So I just went past halfway or intersection of this part here, and I'm going to come up here to the intersection or halfway, and that's all I'm going to choose. Say OK. And then from there, I'm going to hit next. So in here, you got OD, ID, you know, region 1, region 2, whatever one you want to do. You can do front face, back face on there. It's almost like a grooving cycle. We're going to do OD, region 1. We got this primary and secondary. What this is if I click on primary here, it makes an imaginary line going across our OD here. So this right here, instead of having the tool dip down, because we'll go in with a grooving tool here afterwards, it will just make an imaginary line going across, and that's your primary. That's looking at the OD. If I do secondary, that's also going to be looking at the face on there. So we're not worried about that one. We're just going to look at OD. We're going to go from the highest point of our stock. You can either go from the highest point of your geometry, or if you don't know either, and you got a certain distance that you want to go from, you can set it up right here. We'll go from the highest point of our stock, And extensions, if you want to add extensions here, I'm going to say like 5 inches, and I'm going to go angle, and then click on relative to geometry. So my last geometry is going to be straight off here, so it's going to go straight off this way 5 inches on there. So from there, we'll go ahead and hit next. We're going to do a rough and finish, but you also got an option here for pattern repeat finish on there. So we'll do rough and finish. If I want, I can bring over from the available operations another finishing pass if I want to utilize that. If I want to get rid of something, I can always hit the red X down at the bottom left. So from there, I'll go ahead and hit next, and I get into our posting cycle. So I'm going to go separate moves. Again, there's a reason why. Upper turret, main spindle, because that's the only one we don't have a secondary spindle or a sub spindle. Tool, again, I'm just going to use the same tool. It's assuming that we're going to use these tool. So I'm just going to go here and then say OK. Not worried about showing that. So pretty much everything's going to be about the same, so I can just kind of almost whiz right through this part. Again, how much you want to take off every time. So I'm going to go, whoops, 20 thousandths like I did the last time. Everything should be fine. We'll go sharp. Not worried about all that. Let's do a vertical lead out, should be fine. I'm going to say all operations, so now when it goes into the leads here, it's the same. Advanced feed rates, not worried about those. And then our MDIs. So from there, we got our next tool, so it's assuming that we're going to use this tool here, which we're not. We'll just select that one. Again, making it pretty easy today on here. And then we just kind of walk it all the way through. So again, we got on with or without collision detection. I always use the collision detection. That's what I was taught when I first started learning, when we first got Milturn and learning it. Always check it with the holder on there. Because if you look at this image here, if I did it without that on there and turned off, you can see what happens. That holder and the back end of that tool goes right into your part. But with the collision on, it'll avoid that area. You may want to, turn the tool around and go in the other direction and get that cleaned out if you need to. From there, we hit next. We get into our parameters page. Again, I'm just going to leave those alone in there. Should be fine. We got our rapids again and our leads again. You'll notice that our vertical is there. Advanced feed rates and MDIs. And from there, we got finish. Finish holds all your parameters. Compute allows you to compute your toolpath, which, again, I'm not worried about finishing. We're just going to go ahead and hit compute. And this won't take too long now. It's already on the finish pass. And there it is. And again, I'm just really overdoing it here, but you can see it's going past our part there. It's actually going to probably cut into our spindle, but we'll see at the end here. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and just change that, and I'm going to just go, 3 inches. Hit compute, because it doesn't take long to compute. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and blank it out and shrink it up. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do a turn feature, and we're going to do a groove here. So we're going to pick grooving. I'm going to zoom in on here, and I'm just going to window select over all that right there. From there, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. We're going to hit next. Again, same thing. We're going to do this one from geometry. Not worried about any selections. We're going to do an OD, region 1 here. We don't need to rotate it. We're just going to go straight up and down on there. So from there, we're going to go ahead and hit next. We're going to do groove rough and finish. We'll hit next. Separate moves, upper turret, main spindle. Well, let's go into the tool crib here. And let's drag this one up to 3 now. And we're going to change the tool. We'll say yes to that. So we're going to do an OD groove. We'll go 1 inch wide, and we're going to hit OK. And we're going to have this come out 6 inches again, -6, because on there, it should be good. And we'll just go ahead and OK that. Pretty easy. If your tool is wide enough and you're going to do a center pass on there, you can do standard, or you can do a single pass. Allows you to, wherever your center point is right here in the grooving cycle, what reference point, tip, right center, whatever on there. You can set that up when you go into patterns here. If you do a single pass, if you do center, beginning, or end, it will know there. We're going to do standard, but you also have an option in here to do zigzag. There was a lot of questions when we were creating this new lathe package here a while back about doing zigzag. Haven't heard anything since, but we can also do a zigzag in here if you want on there. If you do a single or zigzag here, if you do standard, you have options in here for either sorting, either standard, center out, center, and you can see what it's all about. Skipping, and you can also check it with tool collision there. So I'm going to do standard here. Hit next. Step over, I'm just going to leave the same, but you can also do, rough allowance. If you hit rough allowance, the semi-finishing pass will show up here, and you can set up either a forced down cutting or a basic finish. We'll get into that one here when we do the finish pass. Finish allowance, we're going to leave that much in there. If you want, you can peck also down in here, so you can just do a pecking amount, move over, peck, and just do a pecking all the way across, so you don't, take a full depth, which we're actually going to do on these examples. You can do multiple step downs if you want. You can do by area, by level, whichever one you're doing, if you're doing multiples across there on that. So you have different options in there, and you can do either one way or zigzag if you want, if you're doing it. So from there, we'll go ahead and hit next. We get into our rapids. Again, not worried about the rapids here. And then our lead in and lead out. You'll notice in here that the lead in and lead out for the groove rough is parallel and parallel. Everything else is grayed out. That's the only option you get. When we get down here to the finish, you'll have options for everything active in there. So whatever you want to do, I'm just going to hit all operations, make it all simple here. We'll hit advanced feed rates if you need to utilize those. And then empty eyes. And then we got the groove finish here. So it's assuming that we're going to use the same tool, which is what we're doing. Again, hit next. Now we can do force down. I can set an overlap amount in there. So instead of, coming down here and just down to the center and down here into the center, you can do whatever you want. Or you can do a basic finish. So it's going to start from one side and work its way up, which what we'll do. We'll do this with collision detection and tool holder. G41, G42. You got your parameters page, round or sharp in there. We'll do round or sharp. Let's do round. And that's only for if it's coming out of the part if you need to. We're not worried about any bounds. We'll hit next. We get into our rapids if you need to utilize those. And our leads, again, everything's active in there. Advanced feed rates and empty eyes. And then we'll just hit compute. And there it is. And if you right click on any one of the toolpaths here, if you go about fifth one down here, you got backplot. This allows you to, now because I got collision detection selected in here, you can see it's bypassing it. That's why it's not going all the way down. So I may end up having to go in and either modifying my tool, which I can do in here. I can just go in and edit my tool holder. Let's see. Let's change tools. We'll say yes. We pick this OD groove here. If I come down here to edit tool holder, I could choose, let's say, this one. Now, I'm not going to do anything different in there. I'm going to say OK. You'll see it change right there. And then we'll just hit compute. And there we go. So I just changed it and it's kept all the parameters in there. So again, I can backplot this and I always hit the and there we go. So I'm going to come up here and hit save. And we're going to come up here to Mill Turn tab and we're going to hit Start Simulation. This will bring us into a simulation screen. Again, now we're going to see the machine. This is a basic machine. One turret, one spindle on here. We got all our different options you can choose from in here. So I'm just going to hit Run and just kind of let you guys. There's the stock being cut off. Now where I got this set up at, it's already doing some colliding in there, so I may have to extend it back a little more. And there it is. Now again, I might have to, and I can exit out of simulation, and I'm going to right click on Machine Setup 1, I'm going to hit Edit, and come down here. And let's see. Yeah, let's go 24 inches. We'll just OK that and hit Start Simulation. And see where the stock's sitting up at. And you can see it's sticking out way further now on there. So where I had it before, it wasn't long enough. Again, this is, really for simulation and set up for your kinematics of the machine. You're going to know how much stock you're going to have sticking out there. I'm just kind of guessing at it right now. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that too much. Next thing I want to show you is your posting here. So hit Stop Simulation. Again, I'm looking at just the separate moves here. So, of course, the G-code is going to be a lot more. I'm not doing key and cycles at all. Just so I have options in my parameters and patterns pages there. Yeah, we're not worried about this. And there's all your G-code pretty much for all this. Again, this is all separate moves on there. Any questions or anything? All right, well, let's go ahead and take a break here. We'll stop for lunch. We'll come back at 1 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll look at a couple more parts. All right, guys, we'll talk to you in a bit. Thanks.